We're live, are we, Tyler?
We sure are, Paul.
Awesome. It's great to be back here for another episode of Life Coach Live. Oh, I'll just hit.
That's me. Sorry to interrupt there.
That's all right. Yeah, it's fantastic to be back here again, Tyler. How are you going today?
Pretty good. Yeah, things are all right. We're moving into the Christmas season, I guess. At our house, we've got the lights up on the house, and we put the tree up just the other night. So we're getting in the spirit of things over here.
Same. Our Christmas tree has made its way down from the attic, and it's an ongoing work in progress for now, but we'll get there over the next couple of days. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode. As the slide suggests, today we're going to be talking about our beliefs and how powerful self-belief and having a positive self-belief in both ourselves as a person, in our coaching skills and our coaching business is an essential element in us taking the steps that we need to take along this journey to become a successful entrepreneur and a successful life coach. As we've kind of alluded to in previous talks, for us to be able to enjoy the craft that we're diving into of life coaching, of coaching in general, a big part of that puzzle for most of us, not all of us, but a big part of that puzzle for most of us is creating a successful business that allows us to be able to do the thing that we are so passionate about doing. And, often we all kind of know, and most of us have become aware through our training, our beliefs are powerful things. The beliefs that we hold have the power to encourage us to take empowering action towards our vision and to help create the vision that we are working towards. They also have the power to hold us back and prevent us from doing the things that we are passionate about. And it's an interesting conversation that I hope we can spend. We don't really know exactly where it's going to go, this conversation today, Tyler, but I think, we've got a couple of questions lined up for us to talk through that can hopefully shed some light on what is required for us to, start to think about how we can cultivate and develop a positive belief in ourselves that can really help propel us towards the future that we want to create for ourselves. Do you have anything to say before we click over to the first question that we're going to have a look at today, Tyler?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, the only thing for me is self relating to your identity, and we know in the live coaching path how identity is at the root. It's the seed. It's the core of fulfilling your vision and your mission and accomplishing your goals. And as you said, Paul, our beliefs, that's we're getting into the second and third power. What we feel is true, we believe, and what we think is true, we believe. And then, of course, the actions, the third power, follow on that. So I think this is a very timely conversation that we're having here today. So I'm looking forward to diving deep into it with you, Paul.
Mm. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that comes up for me is, memories of where I was 2 years ago, 18 months ago. It's a gradual process that I went through in terms of my belief process. I remember starting at the very start of my journey being hugely optimistic. My beliefs were through the roof in what I was going to accomplish. Then down over the bump at the top of the roller coaster and down the other side, there's an element of the more we become aware of, we become aware of what's required to develop as a coach. Running a successful business, that was foreign to me. The more I sort of understood and the more I discovered about what was required, the more I doubted myself. And my self-belief took a huge hit during that time. And I think, when I think about a common problem that a lot of up and coming coaches, a lot of people who are new to business in general, what seems to happen, a pattern that I've seen sort of repeat in my own personal journey and something I've seen, in others that I've worked with, is we have a tendency to look externally when we doubt ourselves. We're looking around at what everyone else is doing around us. And, that can put even more pressure on ourselves. And I think in some ways it can actually help us doubt ourselves even more, because we end up going in this negative downward spiral where we're overwhelmed. We've got no certainty about what success systems look like, what is going to enable us to reach that vision that we hold so dearly. We tend to lose track of the why we got into this in the first place, because we're so overwhelmed with, what's the next thing we need to do? We're getting bombarded with marketing materials telling us, everything, promising the world about this, that, and the other, about, if you follow my process or my recipe, I can guarantee you this and that. We kind of get sucked into these stories that are happening around us, and we seem to internalize these stories in many ways. And I've seen this over and over again, and it becomes, how do we break through this cycle of doubting ourselves and start to become clear about what it is that we need to start focusing on. Not sure what your thoughts are on that, Tyler. What's your opinion on this? It's a bit hard for us. I know we've had a lot of conversations lately about, what's happening out there. What is it that other coaches are experiencing, and what are the particular challenges that they're facing? When I look back now, I've managed to create an element of certainty in, the way that clients come into my business, for example. There's an element of knowing and trust in myself and trust in my processes and trust in my system, which gives me an element of self-belief in what's required and what I need to be doing to continue momentum and to continue the growth that I'm looking for. In some ways, it's difficult to remember back to that complete uncertainty and lack of belief that I experienced not that long ago. Can you remember what that felt like?
Well, you see, it's hard because I've wanted to be a life coach since my early 20s, which is pretty much the same time that I entered into business for myself. So you're asking me to go back almost 30 years. But the process of fulfilling that vision of being a life coach has taken a lot of time. And I think that for me, going through the process of the learning, the growth, and the failures, and gaining experience is what kind of develops that inner core strength and conviction and belief in yourself. I think initially, belief it's a tricky thing. My approach to belief would be more about discerning what is true, because from my standpoint, from a just purely just a logical standpoint, I'm more concerned with what is true than with what I believe, because it's great to have lots of beliefs, And I think part of my journey, my process, has actually been getting rid of all of my false beliefs. Like it's almost like we're programmed and conditioned to being a certain way, believing a certain thing about ourselves. And we, part of the inner work, I guess, is challenging, first of all, becoming aware of what those beliefs are, and then challenging the validity of them and questioning them, not just assuming everything I believe is true. So my journey has really been looking for the truth. And that is, once I recognize what the truth is, I don't even know that I necessarily have to believe it. I just know it, For me, belief actually is a bit of a blind faith. It's you kind of have to believe in something, you trust in something, you're not entirely sure, but and I think it serves a great purpose. I think we have to have that belief and trust in ourselves, so yeah, it is a fascinating topic of conversation. Yeah, I don't know what else to add at this in this part, Paul. So
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And, some really good insights there. And I think, defining what belief is. And, one thing you said there is, it just made me think about the programming that we have been conditioned to over so many years, potentially. We unlearning a lot of the things that we've already learnt is a huge part of transitioning from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, that thinking for yourself. And what keeps coming up for me is, I really, I truly believe the things that I can see to be true. That's easy to, in many ways, that's very easy. It's I think of myself as being a logical person, and when I can see evidence to support something, it makes it very easy to come to the conclusion that that is actually fact and it's the truth. I think the challenge that a lot of coaches have is, we have this desire. We have this desire to leave our old world behind, leave all that programming and conditioning that we've been exposed to for many, many years behind us and embark on a completely new adventure. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is, how do we find evidence to support an idea that we haven't actually got any evidence of just yet? And back to the problem of, what I see happening, and we can get to sort of some of the, what the alternative looks like in a moment, I guess. But the problem that I see that keeps popping up is, this lack of self-belief or lack of faith. I love that word faith. I would not really consider myself a religious person, but a lot of my family members are, but I love that word faith. And to me, that means, trusting and believing that something that you can't yet see the evidence for is, firstly, it's possible. And I think when it comes back to self-belief, it's possible for you to achieve this thing. And I think, there's elements of, there's a distinction between self-esteem and confidence. If we are able to highlight skills that, we potentially need to work on, we can put a plan in place to develop our skills. But for me, belief comes back down to, this trust and faith that we have in ourselves, in whether we're able to achieve the vision that we are setting for ourselves. And, this particular question, what happens when we lack self-belief? I think, that is where we doubt ourselves, our fears and worries take over. We just don't know where to turn. We don't trust ourselves with the decisions we're making. And, we get overwhelmed, burnt out, and potentially that's where we decide this is all too hard and try something else.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, Paul? If you have positive, affirming beliefs in who you are and what you are and your abilities and your inherent goodness, I guess you could say, then it's working for you. And on the flip side, if you don't have those qualities, it kind of means that you have the opposite beliefs in yourself. And so that's why it's so important to do the identity work so that you have a strong vision of who and what you are and begin to trust in that. And at that innermost level, there's really greatness within each of us, and that's what I've discovered. I don't even believe that, Paul. I know it. There's inherent greatness within each of us. And that greatness is available, and it's up to us to look for it, to look inside and find out who and what we are. And that's part of the vision process and the identity process. So this is great. I love this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I guess that leads us on to this next question. Why is self-belief critical for effective coaching? And I love what you said there. I love everything you said there, Tyler. It's, we may have had self-belief and confidence and, a true belief that we can do anything that we set our mind to at the highest level in our previous adventures. But for many of us, we are going through a transition period of our own choice. We are making that decision within ourselves to move towards something completely different in many cases. Sometimes there's more similarities than others, but in many cases, it's vastly different to what we had experienced previously and the things that we were feeling comfortable with. And the reason for me that this idea of self-belief is so critical is because for us to be able to, work with clients, for us to be able to have conversations with people at any level. It could be the level just above you, it could be the level below you, it could be anyone around us. But for us to be able to have effective coaching conversations, if we don't believe in ourselves first, it makes it really difficult for the people that we are wanting to have these conversations with, the people that we're wanting to bring into our businesses to believe in us if we don't believe in ourselves first. And kind of want to get into maybe content from slides that might be coming up. But, for me, this is an acceptance of who we are back at that identity level. It's not pretending that we're still, in the upper levels of our previous career. It's accepting that we're at the very start of our journey and there's nothing, no judgment, no shame, it actually is who we are in this journey right now. And, the more gratitude we can have for the opportunity that we've got, the more we can start to give ourselves permission just to be acting at the level we're at right now. The more we can start to truly believe that we have everything within us already to be able to take that next step. And for me, that's why this is so important, because once again, if you're doubting yourself, I'm just thinking about that distinction between someone who's doubting themselves and someone who's just letting themselves be who they are right now, and the confidence that sort of protrudes from that.
Yeah, the term that's coming up for me listening to you, which I think is really at the essence of self-belief, is self-acceptance. Because so if I could just spin this, why is self-acceptance critical for effective coaching? Because it means that we're honest with ourselves about who and what we are, rather than turning a blind eye or only wanting to believe certain things about ourselves that are true. And we don't really want to become aware or conscious of some of the areas where we need to improve or grow, And what I've found is that when we do that, it's kind of a ego self-protection mechanism, right? We don't want to we don't want to look at our areas of improvement or our warts. We oftentimes, and this is where the inner work comes in. We want to ignore certain things, or maybe we're not open to feedback. People want to give us some feedback and some support, but we just want to know what we believe. And self-acceptance means that you are aware of all the pros and cons, all the positive and negative things, and you make peace with it, right? And you become aware of it, and you become conscious, and you do your best to be mindful of those areas where you need to pay a little bit more attention to. And, in terms of the self-belief, and if you don't, as a coach, have self-belief, then yes, 100% I agree. It makes it difficult for the client to believe in you or trust in you. So I've noticed that the work that I've done with my clients is for them accepting themselves instead of stop being so critical and judging, and and that goes both ways: critical and judgmental on yourself, but also of other people. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tyler. This and probably everything that we've been talking about for the last little while is all about developing that healthy relationship with ourselves first and foremost. And a big part of that is knowing who we are. I love that question, Tyler. You asked that question a couple of chats ago, and I love it. It's a interesting question, and it's very, very relevant in this conversation here today, because if we are worried about what others are doing, if we're fearful, if we're doubting ourselves, it's going to have a direct impact on the decisions that we make and the way we bring ourselves to doing the things that we commit ourselves to doing, if we even are able to follow through on those actions.
Are you talking about the "Who am I" question?
Yeah.
And you think it's a straightforward question. I mean, I think most people never actually ask themselves because they assume that they already know who they are, and it's actually an extremely deep question. And so, yeah, it's not always what things appear to be.
So that brings us to the next slide that we've got here. And I love these slides, by the way, Tyler. They're looking very good today. But what happens, or what transformation occurs when a coach fully believes in themselves and their methods? And, we touched on that a moment ago. But the big thing for me is, there's much less looking externally. there's much less comparing to others and trying to meet others' expectations. What's coming up for me is, we painted a picture of the other side of the coin when our self-belief isn't where we potentially want it to be. If we're able to, make some adjustments in the way we think about ourselves and are able to see the goodness we've got in ourselves and our ability right now to be able to help many people around us, if we're able to start truly believing in our skills that we've already got, because no doubt every single one of you guys out there has, life experience. You've done some training of some description. You've done some practicing. You are more than enough right now to be out there coaching and guiding, people in need to work through the challenges that they're experiencing. And when we start to believe that we have that power within us, we're no longer focusing externally. We are able to concentrate on, what is most important to us, how we want to be bringing ourselves to our daily routines, the things that we commit ourselves to, the coaching sessions that we embark on, the sales calls that we jump on. We're no longer needing external results as much. We're trusting in our abilities much, much more. It's like chalk and cheese for me when I think about the difference between a lack of belief and a healthy belief in ourselves. And a couple of things I just want to mention, that it's not about, it's far from, again, I think I said this earlier, but it's far from thinking you know everything. It's far from thinking I've got every skill that I need to coach every single person. It's less of that, and it is more about an awareness of who we are and an acceptance of who we are, as you said so nicely before, Tyler. But if we can get this self-belief piece right and give ourselves permission to just get out there and, we've got our vision, we've got, the next thing that we want to put our mind to, the resistance starts to fall away in many ways. It's that resistance that a lot of that resistance comes from a lack of belief in ourselves. Things like procrastination and perfectionism, and I understand where that comes from. We're trying to be the best version that we can, but if we're doing that from a place of fear and worry about what others are going to think, that's a very, very different place than just trusting ourselves and giving ourselves permission to be who we are right now. And, we're not perfect. No one is. I'm not anyway. I can't talk for anyone else, but, it's a completely different destination to be.
Yeah, I love this question. It's fascinating because I think that is the transformation. When you, as a coach, as a person, as an entrepreneur, fully believe in yourself and your methods, that in itself is a major transformation. To get to that place it's a great vision to have. It's a great goal to have, and it's easier said than done.
Absolutely. And that brings us to our last question of the day. How can we cultivate this strengthened self? I'm going to call it self-acceptance again. I think that's a really, it encompasses everything that we're trying to talk about. We spoke about the challenges that a lack of self-belief brings. We've spoken about the complete transformation that, the other side of the coin can bring us. But we also know that there's no switch. There is no switch that's going to take us from one side to the other side. None of us have a magic wand. Even as coaches, we know that if we were, trying to help our clients with self-belief, we know that it can be a process that we have to go through. It's a journey that we have to go through. But I think what we've kind of highlighted today is, it's developing a mindset more than anything else, that we do accept ourselves. We can accept where we are, wherever we are. We can find a way to accept, this is me right now. This is where I am. Our vision might require us to improve some of our skills. It might require us to, push ourselves out of the comfort zone to allow us to desensitize a little bit to some of the fears and worries we have about doing some of the tasks that we need to be able to perform as a successful life coaching business owner. But if we can find a way to trust in ourselves that we've got everything that we need today to be able to take that very next step, that's our goal. And it's small steps. It's finding something small that you can do today that's a step in the right direction. A huge part of this for us, Tyler, I think you might agree, is part of the reason why we're doing this is to create a safe place, to create an environment where we can cultivate this sense of self-belief. And we don't know where that might take us. We've got a couple of ideas up our sleeve that we might try and roll out over the next little while. But first and foremost, and the main why for us doing this is a huge part of the reason why we're doing this is to enable you guys, ourselves included in this, everybody, that we can sort of get together to, practice. We've spoken about practice a few times, Tyler, and I think that's what it comes down to. It's a practice of showing up. It's a practice of, reinforcing the beliefs that we hold. We get to choose our beliefs. We get to choose what we look. I think that's an interesting question in itself. I want to rephrase that slightly. Our beliefs are our beliefs in many ways, but we get to choose what beliefs we search for evidence for. We may believe that we are someone who struggles to show up to our calls, but we can also form a belief that we are the person that can show up to our calls. And the more that we do the things that we want to be doing and that we need to be doing, the more we can find evidence to support that new belief. The more we find the courage to do the things that we need to do, even when we are feeling a bit of discomfort, the more we can grow to be the coach that we want to be.
Yeah, the live coaching path is how coaches can cultivate and strengthen their self-acceptance and belief, their certainty. Really, we're talking about acceptance and certainty in oneself, who one is, what one's vision is, the reason why people are here. This is really what we're trying to establish clarity around, our true purpose for being here. Identifying what our mission is. How is it that I want to show up in the world with my family and my friends? How do I need to be as a person in order for my vision to become fulfilled? And by understanding the truth of who we are, recognizing the truth of who we are, and transcending our limited beliefs that aren't really who we are, our small beliefs, our ego beliefs, by going beyond those boundaries of our what keeps us in our smallness, in our comfort zone, in our ignorance. If we step outside of that, yes, it's scary. Yes, it's unknown. But we have to have the courage in order to follow our dream, fulfill our vision, recognize and be mindful of who we want to be. And if we can do those things, the doing part happens easily, effortlessly. We don't need to think about it. We just spontaneously, our body knows. Because at the innermost level, we know who we are. At the heart level, we know what our purpose is, what our vision is. And at the mind level, we know how we need to be, how we need to show up in the world. And so the doing part is pretty much takes care of itself. Even if it's new things that we are challenging ourselves to do, it doesn't mean that fear and resistance isn't going to show up. But we have certainty in ourselves. We trust in ourselves. We've done the inner work. We've built the inner strength. We have the inner courage. We have the inner conviction. And so trying something new, we know there's some uncertainty around that. We know that there's a possibility that we might fail or that we might look silly. But if we know who we are, then that gives us the strength and courage to transcend those fears and resistance. And follow your heart, and the body knows what to do. That's my 2 cents on the question there, Paul.
No, I love it. It sums it up perfectly. And it is this idea of thinking, another distinction between just focusing externally. When we spoke about that problem that a lot of coaches are facing early on, it's looking externally. It's looking at this thing that everyone's telling me that I need to be doing. It's, not understanding the why and not being able to bring ourselves to do the thing. But what we've been talking about and what you summed up so well just there, Tyler, is, we want to flip things around. And if you're spot on, Tyler, if you've done the inner work, if you've accepted who you are, accepted yourself as a life coach at the level that you're at, accepted that we can't have any influence at all on external results. We can only empower ourselves to take actions, that we're responsible for. And we can start to develop that sense of self-belief and trust in ourselves that we can make good quality decisions. We can commit ourselves to doing the things that we determine to be important next steps and continue to take empowered action towards making this vision that we have a reality.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so I think for me, to just follow up on this, if you haven't had a chance to download our Live Coaching Path ebook, you can go to our website at www.lifecoach-live.com, and it's free to download, and it will identify the 3 powers and your deeper, truer identity, and in combination with each other, we're able to navigate towards the fulfillment of our vision and our goals. And it would be great to get some feedback from those who have already downloaded the ebook. We would love to hear from you, how it's impacted you or inspired you. So please feel free at any time to reach out and let us know. Or if you have any questions about it that you want to ask, Paul and I are available all the time. Just message us and probably get back to you within 24 hours. So is there anything else, Paul, that I've missed here?
No, once again, you've summed it up perfectly. No, I've enjoyed that chat today, and there are so many more layers that we could dive into in terms of the life coaching path, in terms of self belief, in terms of what's required to fulfill this vision that we all share, of becoming a successful life coach and creating a successful life coaching business. But I think, if we can work on this self belief and start taking steps to combat some of the negative beliefs that are potentially holding us back, the alternatives are amazing. Really, once we start to believe in ourselves and we trust that we can actually, achieve and do anything that we put our mind to, it's a powerful place to be. So I think that's about it for today, Tyler. Thank you once again for your time today. As Tyler's already mentioned, if anyone has any feedback or any comments on the ebook, please let us know. We would love to start as many conversations with you guys as we can. And yeah, we look forward to talking soon.
Thanks so much, Paul. It's been great. I look forward to talking to you in 48 hours, doing another Life Coach Live. All right. Until then.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.